Half-Life, Valve, 1998. I first tried this game a few years ago after I saw how much my online friends enjoyed it. We already played a lot of Gary's mod together, and that game uses Half-Life 2's engine, so I was pretty optimistic, even as someone who never cared much for first-person shooters. So I booted up the game, streaming it in a Discord VC so my friends could hear my reactions, and dove headfirst into what I was sure would be a mind-blowing experience. I hated it. Yeah, I know. And it's not like I wanted to either. I'd seen all the memes about G-Man and Barney and that microwave in the break room.
Stop f***ing with the microwave!
I'd seen the resonance cascade in all of its cinematic glory, and I even referenced it in my own game. I wanted to love Half-Life, but during that first playthrough, it seemed the feeling wasn't mutual. My primal gamer rage slowly bubbled to the surface as I died over and over and over to things that felt impossible to see coming. The levels felt like labyrinths designed to be as frustrating to navigate as possible, and after spontaneously combusting for the 100th time in a row, I threw in the towel. I clenched my fist and shook it at the clouds, loudly proclaiming to the heavens how overrated and terribly designed Half-Life was. What do people see in this game anyway, I thought. Who cares if it has fully voiced dialogue? It's not like it was the first game to do that. And what about the janky platforming? People crap all over Sonic Adventure for its quirks, but Half-Life gets a pass? They came out the same year. This game is nothing but a glorified Quake clone. What were they thinking? Once I got over that though, Half-Life didn't cross my mind much. I wasn't losing sleep over how the game hurt me or anything. Okay, maybe a couple times, but for the most part, the game had faded into the dark recesses of my subconscious. When my friends talked about it, I'd occasionally chime in with a meme or a silly gif, but not much beyond that. I figured I'd given Half-Life a fair shake, so I was ready to move on. The Half-Life 25th anniversary documentary is incredible. Even with my negative first impressions of the game, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Hearing the actual team of people behind a game share their experiences and insight is far too rare in this industry, so having the entire development story laid out like this was a real treat. It showed me the human side of Half-Life, something I didn't properly appreciate on my first playthrough. Alongside the documentary, Valve also released a comprehensive update for the game, fixing a lot of issues that had built up over the years. Sega could never. If I was going to return to Half-Life, this was the perfect time to do it. So I decided to give the game another shot. On hard mode for some reason. It was this playthrough where I was finally starting to get it. I say starting to get it because, yeah, I still couldn't make it to the end of the game. I'd adjusted to the high difficulty just fine, but I was still frequently getting lost, and at a certain point I just got fed up with it. Once again, I dropped the game, though with more respect for it than last time. I concluded that Half-Life, while undoubtedly a good game, just wasn't for me. I was ready to move on. Except this time I couldn't move on. I couldn't shake this nagging feeling in my brain. I mean, there were a lot of aspects of this game that I was starting to fall in love with, and I gave them up just because I got a little lost? Come to think of it, how did I even get lost in the first place? Are the levels really that poorly designed, or was there some other factor I hadn't considered? Oh yeah, I was playing in a voice chat. With a soundboard. Was this it? Was this the reason I was having such a hard time? Was playing an intensive game like this while also talking to several other people in the VC just too much for my tiny brain to handle? Duh. That's when I decided to try something revolutionary that nobody had ever attempted before. Playing a single-player game by myself. Mind-blowing, I know. With this newfound revelation, I started a third playthrough, this time on medium, yes, I'm a coward, and on November 17th, 2025, I did it. I finally beat Half-Life, and when I did, my feelings toward the game went from respect to love. After so many years of struggling with my faith, I finally understand the word of Gabe, and now I'm here to spread that gospel to you, dear viewer. So, if you'll indulge me, I'd like to talk about one of my new favorite games of all time. From the good to the bad, from the ugly to the beautiful, I want to cover it all. So, without further ado, this is Half-Life.
Good morning.
What's up? The game opens with a tram ride giving us a bird's eye view of Black Mesa, a government research facility whose goal is to violate as many OSHA regulations as possible. This intro is incredible for a multitude of reasons. First of all, it perfectly establishes the dark comedic tone of the game. The train carries you through the most dangerous looking facility you've ever seen, while the lady on the speaker lectures you about the importance of workplace safety.
If you feel you have been exposed to radioactive or other hazardous materials,
These windows don't have
Blast!
The second cool thing about this intro is how well it conveys the scale of Black Mesa. This entire sequence is rendered in real time, and despite how impossibly huge this place is, it doesn't feel like the developers compromised on detail. There's so much going on in every room you pass through, whether it's big set pieces or subtle background details.
Is that the guy from Scouty Toy?
I can't think of any game prior to Half-Life that could render a space this massive this well. The lighting and texture work are incredible for 1998, and this carries over into the rest of the game too. But anyway, we've finally reached our destination, where we meet a security guard named Barney. Now the first thing you'll notice about Barney is that he can make a really convincing beep sound with his mouth. The second thing you'll notice about Barney is that he's an absolute Chad.
Hey, catch me later, I'll buy you a beer.
I don't even drink beer, but I'd totally make an exception for this guy. The third thing you'll notice about Barney is... Wait, how did you get in here so fast? Wait, there's another one? Oh no, they're everywhere! Yeah, so Barney isn't just one guy, he's more like a species. You'll find these Barneys hanging out in different parts of the game, and you can have them tag along to help out with enemies and such.
Hey, Mr. Freeman.
Oh, right, I'm getting ahead of myself. In Half-Life, we play as Morgan Freeman. We play as Gordon Freeman, a scientist employed at Black Mesa who's part of a team that's working on... whatever this is. I don't know, they probably told me at some point, but I wasn't really paying attention.
I'm afraid we'll be deviating a bit from standard analysis procedures today.
Access denied.
Yes, but with
Access
good reason.
denied.
This
You're
is a
supposed to be in
rare
the test
opportunity
chamber
for
half an
us.
hour.
Please,
Say that.
leave me
Although I
alone
will
until
admit
after
that
the
the possibility
experiment.
of a resident.
Gordon doesn't need to hear all this.
Well, that's relief. I love the scientists in this game. They're definitely the most prominent source of comic relief, though there's no shortage of that anyway, both intentionally and unintentionally. But back to the scientists, I just love their voices combined with the low fidelity audio. It gives them so much character.
Why do we all have to wear these ridiculous
My
ties?
God, what are you doing?
This first level where you're just walking around the facility is actually one of the most important parts of the entire game. Having the player grow accustomed to this environment and attached to these goofy characters is vital, and we'll soon see why. But first, we need to get dressed.
Welcome to the HEV Mark IV.
Oh yeah, baby. With our HEV suit on, we can now safely enter the... Yeah, I still wasn't paying attention. I probably should have been, though, because all I did was put this rock in the doohickey, and now everything's going to ship. Whoops! This is the Resonance Cascade, one of the most iconic scenes in video game history, and it gives us the perfect opportunity to talk about one of Half-Life's biggest innovations. Video games have always had a hard time with storytelling, and they still do even to this day. I'm sure you've all played at least one game that suddenly took control of your camera to show you something, or froze everything just to tell you something you already knew, or constantly bombarded you with unnecessary dialogue, or brought back William Afton even though he's dead. But what if there was a different way to tell a story through a game? That's what the folks at Valve asked themselves when they were making Half-Life, and eventually they found the solution. The best way to tell a story through a game was to tell the story through the game. Half-Life never takes control away from the player. Ever. Okay, there's like one time, but other than that, you are in complete control of Gordon from start to finish. Even in the opening sequence, you're free to run and hop around the train. The game never steals the camera from you to show points of interest or disables your movement to make you listen to dialogue. Every level is seamlessly connected to the next, and every story event happens in real time as you play, making everything feel so much more immersive. What makes this even better is the developers' unwavering confidence in this approach. They didn't compromise anywhere. Was your back turned when something cool happened? Tough shit, bud. You snooze, you lose. Half-Life's story isn't told to you. It happens to you, and it's your job to adapt to whatever it throws your way. It's a brilliant melding of gameplay and plot that would forever alter the way stories and games are told today. Except that's not what happened, because nobody learned anything from Half-Life.
So...
Now back to the game. Oh. This is why the previous level was so important. It allowed us just enough time to develop a connection to the location and characters, only for it all to be destroyed in an instant. Now we're forced to witness the aftermath of the Resonance Cascade, walking back through the now perilous halls that were so lively just moments ago. But this catastrophic event didn't just kill a few scientists and dirty up some floors, we also have aliens to deal with, and man are some of these designs creepy. We've got head crabs that eat people's brains and take control of their bodies, vortigons that sap you with zappy stuff, bull squids that spit venom, and many more, all with their own strengths and weaknesses. One of Half-Life's greatest strengths is gameplay variety, and the enemies are no exception. Hey, what's this? Oh! We found our first weapon, the crowbar, and it highlights another great thing about this game, the sound design. Holy balls, the sound design. It is immaculate for such an old game. The footstep sounds are tactile, the weapon sounds are super punchy, and the explosion sounds are both amazing and hilarious. Sound design in video games is all about feedback, and Half-Life excels at feedback. Every crowbar hit, gunshot, grenade launch, rocket launch, and explosion is short, snappy, and immediate, reinforcing your actions and elevating what was already an insanely satisfying game feel. The sound design is a huge part of what makes Half-Life so appealing. It also makes everything 10 times funnier.
It's much too unpredictable. Don't let it overcharge.
What do you mean, overcharge?
At this point, Black Mesa is a pretty dangerous place to be, as if it wasn't already, so our goal is clear: get to the surface. Easier said than done, unless you're Gordon Freeman, because he never says anything. And, that's us. We're Gordon Freeman. With that in mind then, it looks like the doing is up to us, so let's get that doing done. This is where Half-Life truly begins. The stuff I've talked about so far was just the appetizer. Now we've reached the main course. So we navigate our way out of the test chamber, and along the way we find a dead Barney. What a tragedy. Why did this have to happen? Dibs on his gun! This is weapon number 2, the pistol. And like any first gun in an FPS game, it's pretty much your run-of-the-mill firearm. Just point, shoot, and watch your ammo. That last part is very important. Half-Life can get pretty stingy with its items, so resource management is a big part of the gameplay. At least we have our trusty crowbar if all else fails, some quality time with our new toy, and one elevator ride later, we arrive at the next area of the facility, the office complex. This is one of the more memorable parts of this game for me personally. It's a place that could easily exist in real life, contrasted with the Vortigons and other cute creatures roaming the place. This juxtaposition really sells the idea that you're in the middle of an alien invasion. You don't fully grasp the severity of the situation until you see a scientist get eaten alive right before your eyes.
I refuse to go another step.
There's also a giant meat locker in the middle of this place for some reason, and this is where we pick up weapon number 3, the grenades. These are a fun, albeit unreliable, method to deal with enemies, as while the physics are a little, the damage they can do more than makes up for it. And not too long after that, we pick up weapon number 4, the shotgun. Now we're talking. It's a lot like the shotgun in Doom, and probably Quake and other games, but I've only played Doom, so I don't know. Basically, it deals more damage the closer you are to your target, creating a simple but effective risk and reward system. You can also right-click to do a more powerful blast that consumes more bullets, and makes one of the most satisfying sounds I've ever heard in my life. We're only maybe 1/10 of the way through the game, and already we have a pretty diverse arsenal. This is another thing Half-Life does exceptionally well. Every weapon has its own unique function, which means your inventory is just as much a toolbox as it is a gun case. The game makes use of every single one too, so none of them ever feel inferior. A lot of games struggle with making all their weapons equally important, so the fact Half-Life makes it look so easy is a testament to Valve's genius design. Well, I'm starting to think this game might be kinda good. After that, we make our way up an elevator shaft, Die Hard style. This whole game reminds me of Die Hard actually. Did they ever make a game like this for that movie? Because that would be a perfect oh man, might have to make a video on this one someday. But that'll have to wait till Christmas, because we're not even close to escaping Black Mesa. It seems we're lucky to have gotten as far as we have though. This soldier sure wasn't. Was he here to rescue us? What a shame. Dibs on his gun. Weapon number 5 is the MP5 submachine gun, and this has gotta be one of my favorites. Not only do you get the traditional rapid-fire bullets, but you also get a freaking grenade launcher. Now, is this weapon realistic? Actually, yeah, there's a good video about it. I'll put it in the description. Moving on, we reach the storage area, and hey, it's another soldier. Well, that's just great. As if the aliens weren't bad enough, now we have the United States military after us. This section is pretty sick though. One of Half-Life's big selling points was its advanced AI, back before advanced AI meant destroy the job market. It adds some depth and complexity that makes the enemies fun to deal with, but it's definitely aged a bit. Look, if I can outsmart these guys, that's how you know they're dumb.
So, who's this guy, Freeman? They say he was at Ground Zero. Science team? You think he was
As tempted as I am to talk through the whole game like this, one, that'd make this video way longer than it needs to be, and two, I don't want to spoil all the good parts. If this video has piqued your interest in Half-Life, I highly encourage you to play it for yourself. It's a phenomenal game with incredible design, atmosphere, and storytelling. However, it's not without its rough spots. Let's face it, Half-Life is old, almost 30 years old, and if there's one thing consistent about 3D games from this time period, it's the jank, and this game is no exception. That said though, jank comes in several varieties, and not all of them are bad. Sometimes a lack of polish is just part of the charm.
I'm not so sure I want to go to the surface. If the world finds out what we were doing down here.
It can even add depth to a game, whether intentionally or not, and I'd argue most of Half-Life's jank falls into that category. One of the most common complaints I see is that the difficulty's so brutal that it practically requires quick saving, and hey, I get it. That was one of my biggest problems the first time I played as well. However, in my second playthrough, and especially this one, I've actually grown to love it. Don't get me wrong, there are some moments that are straight up bullshit, but those are few and far between. Yes, the combat is hard, yes, you won't always see enemies coming, and yes, you will need quick saves your first time around. If you hear anyone say otherwise, they're lying to you. But honestly, I really like the playstyle this mechanic facilitates. It allows you to experiment and strategize, something you otherwise wouldn't be able to do considering how stingy this game can be with pickups. There's a certain satisfaction to finally getting that perfect segment after banging your head against a wall for several minutes. Some people would call this save scumming, and well, they're right, but the point is, it's clear to me that Half-Life was designed with quick saves in mind. They wouldn't be here otherwise, so I think what the system loses in beginner friendliness is more than made up for by the strategic gameplay it affords. But what about the bad kind of jank? The kind that detracts from the experience. The kind that can ruin your playthrough and leave such a sour taste in your mouth that it jeopardizes your overall impression of the game. Let's talk about Zen. Spoiler alert, skip here if you don't want to see him. The final stretch of Half-Life takes place on Zen, the planet where all these alien creatures originated. Visually it's breathtaking, and the concept overall is a great idea for a final level. The problem is that it sucks to actually play. Not only is the gravity much lower, but you're also having to do way more parkour than you've been throughout the entire game. Even if the previous areas did have more platforming, it still wouldn't have prepared you for Zen, since your jumps are much floatier here. Zen fails at being a final challenge, because instead of testing the skills you've built up over the course of your adventure, it's practically making you learn a whole new game right before the final boss. Oh, but don't worry, you'll be spending plenty of quality time here until then. Before you can reach the final boss, first you'll have to take care of the testicle boss. This thing's design is absolutely grotesque, but it's fitting, because this fight sucks balls. The boss has a massive health pool, which you deplete by shooting its, sack. Makes sense for a weak point, I guess.
We have to find his weak spot.
I suggest the groin.
What?
Once you deal enough damage, the boss flees, you chase it to the next area, and rinse and repeat until it's over. Easy enough, right? In theory, yeah, this thing may be a damage sponge, but the game makes sure you have plenty of ammo before this point. And indeed, the boss was going just fine for me. Up until the final phase. In this phase, both you and the boss are sent down this hole into a cave. Okay, so the nutsack is up there and I'm down here. Great, I'll just shoot at it until the rest of its health is gone. Just shoot at it until... Okay, why isn't this thing dying? I was stuck here for over half an hour, reloading my save again and again and again, desperately trying to understand what I was doing wrong. Eventually I caved and looked it up. Turns out I wasn't doing anything wrong. The boss was just f***ing broken. What's supposed to happen here is that the creature falls on top of this thing, allowing you to shoot at it from down below to deal the remaining damage required. In my playthrough, the thing got stuck, so I couldn't progress. But wait, I could still shoot the boss just fine from where I was, so why wasn't it dying? Well, apparently, for some godforsaken reason, the developers programmed this fight in such a way to where you can't damage the boss while it's moving between areas. Why? Even worse is that the game still gives you the same feedback as when you do damage the boss. So unless you somehow already know this going into it, you won't have any way of telling whether or not your hits are actually being registered or not. Design like this is bad enough already, but when you combine it with something that doesn't even work consistently, you have a recipe for disaster. Even worse, this problem isn't even new. I found forums from 2003 talking about this exact same issue. So not only was this glitch likely in the game since launch, but in the nearly 30 years since then, it's never been patched. Not even in the anniversary update. It is actually insane to me how much of a raging dumpster fire this testicle boss is. Doubly so when taking into account how amazing the game was up until this point. And we're not even done with Zen. After we kick that game-breaking in the balls, we go through even more low-gravity platforming hell. But after an hour or so of that, at long last, we finally reach the final boss, Nihilanthe. And I gotta say, this guy was the last thing I wanted to go through at this point. The previous boss seems like a minor inconvenience when you compare it to Nihilanthe, because whereas that fight took me 30 minutes, this one took me nearly 2 hours to beat. To give it some credit though, this wasn't due to the boss being broken like the other one was. In fact, design-wise, Nihilanthe is actually pretty solid on paper. You have to destroy these crystal things on the walls that give the boss armor, then shoot at him until that armor is gone, then wait for him to open his head and hit his brain with nades or rockets until he dies. Honestly, it's not a badly designed final boss in a vacuum, but there's 2 things that made it particularly fatiguing in my experience. For one thing, like the rest of Zen, this fight emphasizes low-gravity platforming way more than it emphasizes combat, which means it doesn't do a very good job testing the skills other encounters in the game have taught you. For another thing, demanding that the player endure such a long and tedious boss when they've already gone through hell with the rest of Zen, it's just expecting far too much of the player. The result is a final boss that, while good on paper, ends up being the final cherry on top of the ship sundae of Zen. Eventually though, I did conquer Nihilanthe, and I'll admit it, I felt pretty darn accomplished. You know, while I wasn't a fan of it overall, one thing I'll give Zen credit for is that it really does make you feel like a badass for managing to get through it. It's like finishing a marathon. I assume. I don't know. The farthest I've ever ran was to my car so I could drive to Waterbury. Hi.
Gordon Freeman in the flesh. I took the liberty of relieving you of your weapons. Most of them were government property. As for the suit, I think you've earned it.
Right, so this is G-Man, and he's very impressed with us managing to defeat Nihilanthe. In fact, he's so impressed that he's offered us a job with the government.
If you're interested, just step into the portal and I will take that as a yes. Otherwise, well, I can offer you a battle you have no chance of winning. Time to choose.
I don't know, man. You're kind of creeping me out.
It's time to choose.
Nah, nope, I'm good. I've heard the benefits aren't that great, and I really...
No regrets, Mr. Freeman.
Quick load. Yeah, fine, whatever.
Wisely done, Mr. Freeman. I will see you up ahead.
Look, Half-Life isn't perfect, but what game besides Octodad is? While Zen isn't the grand finale the game deserved, the entire campaign up to that point is so consistently well designed. From the visuals to the audio to the weapon variety to the level design to the enemy design to the literally everything, Half-Life is a phenomenal experience that's earned its place in the top 100 highest rated games of all time. This whole adventure has taught me the importance of giving a game your full undivided attention. Take time to understand the mechanics, listen to the level design and let it guide you. Half-Life was designed to be played alone, and if you play it on its own terms, you'll find yourself engrossed in an immersive experience that you'll never forget. Take it from the guy who used to hate this game. Half-Life freaking rules.